4Ds stand for discover, define, design, deliver. And in a simple context, this is very good for user experience because you can take an artifact like a website or an app. Okay, let's just keep it simple. So a website, you're launching a new business or an organization. You need to look at the first D, which is discover, and you need to really do research. You need to capture as much data as you can of who you're targeting, what are the needs, what are the requirements, everything. Capture everything, synthesize and analyze that data to move on to the second D, which is to define. So you're really now defining the problem. You're prioritizing which needs are the most critical and which are not, so that you can form a hypothesis, right? A brief.
Yes.
So you form a brief and you form a hypothesis. And for those of you that, are like, what's a hypothesis? Well, yeah, it's a tricky word, but hypothesis is just another word for saying you form an informed view.
Right.
I'm hesitant to say assumption because you should never be assuming anything, but you can come up with an informed assumption based on data. Because at the end of the day, we are in a way assuming, but if you're assuming straight away, you might be in danger of designing for yourself rather than the human that you are actually needing to design for.
Basically
And so,
validating the context.
yeah, exactly. Well, it moves on to the third and fourth D. So the validation happens with the third and fourth Ds. Third D being design. So you design a minimum viable version of that and you test, because the fourth D is deploy or deliver, and you test and iterate that version. So in a very simple way, hopefully that has come across. You discover phase. Your discover phase is capturing all the information as possible from everywhere that is relevant. Then you're defining what is the main problem, and you're defining a potential solution to that problem. Then you're designing that solution as an artifact. Some might look at it as a prototype. And then, we can even use paper prototypes to validate, right? And then we go into deliver. You put that out into the market, and that market might be just a small group, a testing group, if you want. And then you go back to the beginning. What did you discover from that test? What are you now defining again? What are you designing now that's a bit more focused? And then how are you deploying version 2?
And it goes on.
Yeah.
Ram, just expounding on what you said, that design is a problem-solving tool. I just want to know from you, how can students use this tool to mold their careers?
Well, the best way is to ask, who is their customer? So their customer is going to be employers.
Right.
So speak to creative directors, business owners, leaders in organizations, in marketing, design departments, if they have that, design directors, even senior designers would be able to give some great advice. So how, I would say, the very first thing is you can piece together up to maybe 85% of the picture, right? Because that's what education is for. They try to help you. They create a curriculum. They help you with a portfolio of work, and they help you with hopefully a course that allows them the basics, the fundamentals of design. But from there, you really need to leverage the experience of what is the reality. So when you're doing an assignment, you don't get 2 weeks in the real world. You'd be lucky to get like 4, 5, 6 hours to finish a project.
Right.
Because what more, the advice that someone that actually works in the industry can give you. So first step I would say is to really start connecting with people. And you can do this virtually too. Use LinkedIn to connect with people, or whatever tool is most prominent in your location or your industry.
Right.
Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, but DMs on Instagram is so easy now. You don't even
Yeah.
need to connect with people for permission in that way. Obviously, you send a very thoughtful first message as a good first impression that's respectful. But that's exactly how we connected. One of your
Yeah.
interns reached out to me and shared a bit about what you guys do, and here we are. So it's possible. It's very possible. And I think people just need to look at it as a numbers game as well. Don't look at it as a personal thing. If you are not receiving a response, don't take it personally. It's a numbers game. It's a
Right.
timing game as well. So what if you've sent a message and the person is taking care of their kids, or the creative director is occupied at just that one moment that you send an email? It's
Mm.
timing as well. It's in some ways it's a game of chance. So when I finished design school, I sent out 300 emails in 1 week, and people that I speak to in design college during Q&A, when I speak at an event, they look distraught. They look so unhappy. They're like, I haven't gotten any luck. I've been applying for jobs for like 4 months. And I'm like, 4 months? How many emails have you sent? They said, oh, like 40. That's 10 emails a month. That's not enough.
Right.
You really, really have to put yourself
Yeah.
out there. It's not going to come to you. You got to work hard. You got to reach out to people, and you got to plant many seeds. Out of the 300 seeds that I planted via emails in the first week after college, only like 2 or 3 people responded back. And
Wow.
I think 2 of the 3 of them were rejection. The others didn't even bother to reply back. They just rejected me with silence. You just got to keep going. This isn't going to be a walk in the park.
Yeah.
Those that are persistent and really just keep honing in on their craft, really putting themselves out there. Don't worry about making money now, man. The money is going to come. It comes later. It's just, I did a talk here called Don't Aim to Make $1 million, Aim to Help 1 million people.
Right.
Because I'm telling you now, like, you have time on your hands, as what Gary Vee says to a lot of young people out there. You've got time. Like, just be patient, because what you are in right now in your 20s all the way up to your early 30s doesn't matter. You're still in a foundational period.
Mm.
You're creating fertile ground. Just enjoy the fact that you're not up there yet. Like, really just enjoy the hard work. And because what pleasure is it if you are on a helicopter and you land at the top versus the person that climbed to the top?
Right.
It's
Right.
you can't have joy without feeling. You can't feel immense joy without feeling immense sadness. It's
Mm.
because you felt immense sadness that you appreciate the immense joy. You kind of you won't feel fulfilled if you haven't gone through and put in the blood, sweat, and tears. Now, I'm not saying that you have to go down that path, but you've got to put some effort here. It's not going to be a walk in the park.
Absolutely. And it goes for anywhere, any aspect of life.
Right,
Or
exactly. And any industry.
any industry. Yeah.
I remember this wonderful talk. If you are on YouTube, just Google Jim Carrey commencement speech. The funny man, Jim Carrey. He
Yeah.
said something really profound. He in his commencement speech to a university, he said, "You can fail doing something you hate, so you might as well do something that you love."
Yeah.
It's so true. You can go pursue law or accounting or engineering or medicine or science. If that's your passion, that's awesome. But deep down, if it's not your passion, you know that you can fail pursuing that too. It's just as equally as competitive as well.
Absolutely.
So you
Right.
might as well go for something that you love. At least at the end of the day, you're passionate about it or you find some excitement about it,
Yeah.
because it's hard work either way, even if you don't enjoy the thing. You kidding me? Being a lawyer, I can't imagine the amount of books and things you have to read and material and policies, and oh my gosh, you'll be living in books.
Right.
It's
Right.
still hard work, but
Yeah.
if you enjoy that, that gives you light at the end of that tunnel, that this is necessary in order for me to be that, or to help people. I need to read these books, or I need to consume that material.
Absolutely.
Right. Right. Ram, I honestly wish I had professors like you back in my engineering school that would have helped a lot.
Thank
Uh,
you, mate.
yeah, you talked about LinkedIn and Instagram, and a lot of your work extends to these digital mediums. I want to know, how did these digital mediums help you advance your design prospects? I mean, how did it help you promote design through these digital mediums?
Well, interestingly, when I started Giant Thinkers, which was a blog, the first week I launched it, only 2 people were reading my blog, my mum and my sister, confirmed by Google Analytics. Right? No one was reading it. No one. Fast track to 3 months in, it organically got picked up by How Magazine, Communication Arts, and then eventually the AIGA, the American Institute of Design. They contacted me and invited me to New York to speak to their leadership team. And I have family in LA, so I visited there and I teed up a time when it would be convenient for me to meet them. So eventually I met them shortly after creating my blog. And they said, the president of this organization, right, the American Institute of Design, which has hundreds of thousands of members all across the country in America, sitting on these grand red chairs looking over Madison Square Avenue. And I'm like, it's my first time in New York. I'm like, far out, what a dream. And the first thing he says to me is, Ram, he goes, so Ram, how are you engaging with an audience that we're struggling to engage with? You know, very serious question, very serious tone of voice. And I'm like, how am I engaging with an audience that you're struggling to engage with? So I let that sit, and I thought, right, so he's talking about these emerging designers that they are struggling to engage with. And then I said, I don't have a strategy. I'm just writing to my younger self. So
Right.
there's the clue. What would your younger self or your prospective audience that you're targeting, what are they using right now? Pretty sure they're all bloody using TikTok now as well, right?
Yeah.
So you gotta be relevant to the platform that they are already embracing. You know, one of my mentors said to me at a young age, which has stuck to me till this day, the best way to motivate someone is to find what already motivates them. Simple.
Mm.
If they are motivated and if they are engaged in certain platforms, remove the friction, as we say in design, and make it easy. Make it easy is a basic UX principle. Make it easy.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
you know, when we are talking about, you know, how I'm able to promote design through, you know, the digital means, well, it was the digital diary, which we now know as blog post writing. It was the digital enabling my books to be enabled as ebooks as well as audio book format. It was podcasting as a digital means for transferring information.
Right.
It was digital courses. So I was on Creative Live, the world's largest online learning platform, where when I did that in San Francisco, 6 hours each class. I've got 2 classes. One's called Create a Knockout Design Portfolio, and the
Yeah.
other one's called get the design job you want, that's an online course that is on demand. That's why Netflix and all these other, live streaming or on demand streaming services are so popular, because it's on your time. You
Right.
watch when you want. You watch
Right.
from wherever you want.
Right.
That's the thing. So you just got to ensure that you're designing for relevance and ease, and that's it. Make it easy for people.
Yeah.
Right.
So before Gaurang asks his next question, I just picked up something from the middle of our conversation where you spoke about how creative professionals in today's age and time, it's no more, the madman character who's sitting out in his office smoking a cigarette, but rather it's the person has to become authentic, and discipline is now coming into this. So what I want to ask is that for a person who's coming into this field, uh, uh, what in the future, if I have to paint just put out what is the kind of personality that a person needs to have according to you, and what are the kind of skills that a person needs to have in the future in order to really make it good in this field?
Yeah. So off the bat, the person has to have humility. Okay. And I say this because you can be the best designer, you could be the most skilled, but you have to remember that there's also cultural currency. And by culture, I don't mean by any means the
Right.
color of your skin or the preference of your sexuality or your religion. No, 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 none of that. I'm
Mm.
talking about the attitude.
Right.
A culture, a culture of people with open-mindedness,
Mm.
humility, creativity. These are all cultural traits that, some cultures, like business cultures,
Right.
have a lot of that. Some do not. Some actually look down upon that. They don't want you to stand up and be open-minded, and they don't want you to have ideas.
Right.
Yeah, they exist. That might be toxic for some people, but some might fall into line and they prefer that. That's fine too.
Right.
But in design, a fundamental currency is your way of thinking, as I already said. So in your way of thinking, doesn't matter if you're just coming out of the gates, but if you are curious,
Mm.
curiosity is a trait, humility, as I already mentioned. You don't
Yes.
want to be apologies for my French, but you don't want to go in there acting like you're a dickhead,
Yeah.
thinking that you're the man or the
Yeah.
woman.
Yeah.
Like I'm telling you now, you never, like, cockiness is such a turn off. You can
Yeah.
be confident.
Mm.
I've defined this as the difference between cockiness and confidence is that cockiness is when someone feels like they need to be better than everyone else.
Right.
Confidence, on the other hand, is knowing that you can perform and be competent on a job and deliver that well.
Right.
That's confidence, right? You can be
Right.
confident by delivering a job well, but you can be cocky, which is like, oh yeah, you can. It's such a turn off, right? We all know how that looks like, and it's more about being right or being better than
Right.
people rather than focusing on the ideas.
Right.
And so attitude as well, willingness to learn, very important.
Yes.
No matter what stage of your career.
Right.
And like, see, these are all the things that, again, I started to really uncover when I was working, but no one told me this, because when we
Mm.
talk about competitive advantages,
Right.
when you create, build brands or work on a product or a
Right.
service, we always talk about competitive advantages for the business proposition or product proposition. But for students, you have to design, you're the product,
Yeah.
and you need to look at yourself as a brand. Okay.
Absolutely.
So for people coming out of the gates, they've got to understand that their competitive advantage is their personality, their values, the way they carry themselves, the way they act. You know, for a junior position at Mercer Bell and Saatchi and Saatchi, in the first week when I put the job ad out, 350 people landed on my inbox, and I'm like, bloody hell, I've got to go through all this. So how am I filtering that? Well, I'm quickly scanning. Firstly, if their resume is designed.
Yeah.
People forget that the resume is the first design artifact.
Right.
Are they using information hierarchy? Are they using structure? Are they using negative space? Are they using, typography formatting?
Right. Right.
Already I can tell if they are able to execute design principles on something as small as a resume
Yes.
or a CV. And then I look at the competencies. So are they studying design? If they're not, then I get rid of the others, because, we need to have a baseline foundation that, we can't spend all our time helping train someone that doesn't have basic competencies as a designer.
Right.
So now I've culled more than half already at this point. And then now I'm looking I'm looking at the portfolios, and I'm not looking through all the portfolios. I might only look at the very, very, very first 2 seconds. And if I'm not seeing if the portfolio is demonstrating what the job role needs, it all comes back to the job description, right? So the
Yeah.
job description, if and this job description, for example, was digital junior designer, then I need to see that there's digital work. The moment that there's not predominantly digital work, gone. That's okay. It just means that, you should apply for a job that's not that job, because digital means digital. So
Right.
apply for relevance. And if that means that you need to have 2 or 3 or 4 different portfolios, PDF portfolios, then do it. Customize for the job role that you're applying for. That's a very important tip. So if some people think that, I didn't get this job, it's because you didn't customize your portfolio.
Right.
Okay. Have multiple versions depending on the job. If it's branding, if it's a brand designer role or a UX designer role, they're 2 different portfolios right there. A
Right.
brand designer. So you can't think that your one portfolio is you think that it's going to be good enough for a junior brand designer, junior digital designer, junior graphic designer, junior UX UI designer. They're all different roles. You think your portfolio is going to stand out? No, you actually dilute the impact, because your portfolio is everything. You want to be the master of one, or tailor it to show that it is heavily one type of work, right? So that's that. And yeah, I think, the ways that you're going to stand out is, one other thing. I got to the interview phase where I culled down to 10 people at this point, and some people were not even looking at me. They were so nervous. God bless them. But like, you gotta make eye contact, right?
Yeah.
You gotta, it's a simple thing that I learned over time. Again, no one taught me this, but mirror each other. Like, don't fold your arms, don't look away. This one girl stopped breathing at one point, and I'm like, oh my God, please breathe. And she was going to have a panic attack, but she was nervous. That's okay. I understand, but just, you gotta, this is your one chance. So, and then also, when I hire, I give a dummy brief. So I give a test. So,
Right.
I remember I gave a test, for this particular job, I gave a test to design, like, it was one concept applied over 3 different banner sizes with a rationale, right? Pretty simple. And then I didn't give a deadline on purpose. I wanted to see who would just self-initiate that. And some of them were like asking when's the deadline, and then they were gonna just deliver it on the deadline. It's like they don't even see. Like, if I say you have a week, I go, oh yeah, like a week's fine. But then they were like, oh yeah, because I've got a lot on this week. It's like, well, if you have a lot on, you have a lot on. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I know that the person that really wants it is the one that's going to do it within 48 hours, for example.
Right.
It's just simple things, simple ways. There's opportunities around you to stand out. But more importantly, yeah, your values, your attitude. I wrote a blog post called "Your Attitude is More Valuable Than Skill."
Right.
So certainly, link this or search it if you're listening to this. It's one of my most popular blog posts because it talks about that.
Yeah.
Right,
Absolutely.
right. That was quite an insight, Ram, and I'm sure you have penned down most of these insights in your books as well. You have authored several books. Would you like to tell us about them?
Yeah, so they're all available on Amazon and different online stores. So the first book is called "How to Get a Job as a Designer,"
Yeah.
and it's a step-by-step guide. I cover the 5 big areas, which is design education rather, portfolio creation, networking, interview situations, and what to do when you're on the job. So
Right.
it's very small. It's not a big read because I designed it for students that I know they don't want to have long reads. So
Right.
that's available. But my other book, How to Get a Mentor, is, I think, it's definitely something that I think is for everyone, because here's the proposition of that. It's um, success leaves clues, right? So we can learn from people that have done what you ultimately want to do. I mean, that's a no-brainer. If there's someone that's done what you ultimately want to do, they're ultimately able to cut the guesswork, see the blind spots, and succeed faster. That's the proposition of that, and I put it down to 12 steps. And so, yeah, that book's available on paperback, ebook, audiobook. You can actually get the first 50 pages for free. As a podcast episode, and so if you
Okay.
still want to hear about it, it's an episode. First 50 pages I read out of the book for free on
Awesome.
my podcast.
Awesome. We'll put it in the recording as well.
Yeah,
Links to all this.
and all the links are on giantthinkers.com. So,
Yeah.
my creative live classes, if you want something more immersive, you can go to giantthinkers.com/ram at creative live. But again, on my giantthinkers.com page, there's links to all these resources, paid or free. There's lots there. So it just depends on where you're at in your life and your circumstance.
Yeah.
Right,
Thanks.
right. Like they say, Ram, all good things come to an end.
That's
We are
it.
almost towards the end of this. We are almost towards the end of the podcast, and this is one of my final questions. So let's say it's a request. Would you like giving our listeners, who are mostly young people, young students, a message from your side?
Yeah, I guess I'll leave them with one that I think could help them the most, which is persistence trumps circumstance. So I know life's hard right now. Circumstance for some people is very, 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 very hard.
Right.
Financially, emotionally, spiritually, dry. Like it can, these times, the world we live in can sometimes feel like you're in a dark place. But I can tell you now that persistence, they say that, I'll finish off that sentence. Persistence does trump circumstance in my experience. So that's the one message I want to leave with listeners, because as I kind of alluded to before, you can't really appreciate the satisfaction of being fulfilled without an exchange. There's always a payoff and a trade-off.
Right.
You're paying either with energy, you're paying with money, you're paying with blood, sweat, and tears. You're paying with late nights. You're paying with effort. I get it. I'm there. I'm still there. I'm always there. And we all have our version of that. But as a student in particular, I feel your pain. I feel the struggle. I was once there, and hence why I've tried to help people in that space. So that's all I can leave with: persistence, because everything that you feel, good or bad, is always temporary.
Mhm.
You're happy now, and I'm not saying to be scared, but life's ups and downs, man. Like that's life. Like it goes up, it goes down.
Yeah.
But when you're down, it's temporary. You'll get back up again, and when you're up, enjoy that time. And when you're down, somehow find the enjoyment in that too. In that you're learning, you're being challenged. It's an opportunity for growth. It's life, man. We got to show up every day to that.
Right.
That's it.
Awesome.
Right. Uh, Ram, I know you took time out for us out of a very busy schedule. I'm sure was time well spent with you. Thank you for being on our podcast. Thank you for giving us your time. You too, Vaibhav.
Thanks so much,
And
Ram.
Pleasure. Thank you, guys.
yeah, and to our listeners, our podcast series continues. Stay home, stay safe, and keep learning.